Hello, 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 amigos. Welcome one, welcome all.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening to
Vaughn Radio.
That's right. It's Vaughn Radio, and this is the show with no name. Get ready for liftoff. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
1, 0.
We got it.
Ignition.
Here we go. Hold on, folks. Hold on tight.
Liftoff.
Come on. Get up there. Get up there. Get up. Come on. You got this, baby. Get ready. Hold on to your hat. Strap on your seatbelt. Fasten your seatbelts. Hold on to your hat. Get ready for the ride of your life. The show with no name. Time on Vaughn Radio. It's a show with no name. Let's go. That's right, amigos. That's right. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. It's been an amazing couple days. A lot of you already have This Book Is the Shit in your possession. You've got it signed. You've got it stamped. We even took a selfie. If you haven't seen those pictures yet, follow me on social media. Follow Vaughn. As many of you saw too, I did a live on Vaughn's Instagram. So make sure you follow us all on social media. And that's key. It's clave. Then you'll know when all your favorite authors are going to be there. I'll be there June 3rd. Saturday, June 3rd is my next date. Thanks to all of you who came to the first day this past Saturday, the 27th. It was, what can I say? I'm still on cloud 9. Estoy en la gloria. And that's thanks to you guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for getting the book. Thanks for all your love. I felt a lot of love. It's a good feeling, guys. Seriously. And I could never thank you enough. You bring that magic every single day. So thank you, thank you. And again, thanks to everybody who turned up, to turn up or to show up. Fijaos lo que hago con la D. Who showed up, lo estoy enfatizando ahora. Who showed up or who turned up. No hay pausas, turned up. So thanks to all of you who showed up, who turned up at the Feria del Libro Madrid. It's exciting. And if you guys want to make it, we'll all be there. More dates. I was only there once. I've got another 2 at the Vaughn stand. And then also on June 11th, I'm going to be at Esgel. What is Esgel? That's our distributor. So if you can't make it to those 2 remaining Vaughn times, maybe you're an afternoon person. No worries. I will be at their stand. All the information is on social media. Sunday, June 11th from 5 to 7 p.m. So if you couldn't make it to see me any of these mornings, last Saturday, this coming Saturday, or Sunday, you'll have a second chance on Sunday to see both me and my buddy, Damian. We're so excited. We felt lots of love, folks. Lots and lots of love. Thank you so much. Also coming up, we've got Dave Boys, Saturday, June 10th, from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30, noon. Oh, wow. 12 is noon, so in the afternoon. Kyle, only one time you can catch Kyle there. Sunday, June 4th, from 12 noon to 2 p.m. Then you've got Ximena Holiday. She'll be there Saturday, June 3rd. So I'll be there in the morning. She'll be there in the evening. And she'll also be there Sunday, June 11th. Again, I'll be there in the morning. She'll be there in the evening. We will cross paths. Cruzaremos caminos. There's no doubt in my mind. And then you've got Tash Pasqua, June 11th from 12 noon to 2 p.m. June 11th from 12 noon to 2 p.m. Again, the stand is 312. And don't forget about Guy Williams. Guy Williams will be there June 4th and June 11th. And both of those are from 7 to 9 p.m. Yeah, Guy, I love it. He goes, I'm not going to go die there in the heat. Yo no voy a ir a aguantar el calor. So Guy has strategically chosen to be there from 7 to 9 p.m. June 4th and June 11th. 2 dates with Guy Williams. And then you've got 1 date with our newest radio superstar, Jules Linares, the host of Let's Get Random. You can catch her every day on Vaughn Radio, and you can catch her at the book fair on June 28th at 7 p.m. June 28th at 7 p.m. I hope you guys can make it. Again, all this information is on our website. You can also get all the information by following us on social media. And you won't just get information, you'll also get tons of exciting content. And a lot of that content I use in our pop quiz. Pop quiz. Pop quiz. Pop quiz. Pop quiz. Pop quiz. Let's go. Pop quiz. Come on. Come on. Pop quiz. Pop quiz. Pop quiz. Pop quiz. That's right, folks. It's our pop quiz, and today's pop quiz is coming from I got to think about this, my third book, but my second book with Damian. It was originally called This Book is the Remilk. I know it's a bit confusing. Let me explain it in this little ad. Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to you live from the funeral.
Señoras y señores, nos dirigimos a ustedes desde el funeral real.
What a sad day it is, for This Book is the Remilk.
Es un día triste para This Book is the Remilk.
It is a book that was loved by many and will be missed by all.
Es un libro que fue adorado por muchos y será extrañado por aún más.
But don't fret. No, don't worry.
Pero no se preocupen,
Because the Remilk will be reborn.
porque This Book is the Remilk volverá a nacer.
With a new name, a new cover, and brand new audio.
Con un nuevo nombre, una nueva portada y ahora con audio.
It's called This Book is the Milk 2.
Se llama This Book is the Milk 2
And it will usher in a new age.
y nos adentrará en una nueva era.
All hail! This Book is the Milk 2, the new leader.
¡Viva This Book is the Milk 2, el nuevo rey!
Long live! This Book is the Milk 2.
¡Larga vida al nuevo rey! This Book is the Milk 2.
That's right, folks. It's available wherever fine books are sold, and now you can get the complete trilogy. You've got This Book is the Milk, This Book is the Milk 2, formerly known as This Book is the Remilk, And then don't forget, you've got the latest and greatest IMO, in my opinion, and Damian's as well, the latest and greatest in the collection. This book is the shit. And I know some of you have got it right next to you right now. And you know what I think that is? I think that's magical. Again, I think one of the most amazing moments is when I hand it to you. When you're like, I want one of these. And I'm like, here you go. I'd love to give it to you because I've been working on this with Damian for a long time. But it all started as a seed in our head. So what's the lesson? The lesson is follow your dreams. Now, I wish it was that simple. What they don't tell you, what they leave out, lo que omite muchas veces is, and then bust your ass in the process. Yeah, it's not romantic, right? It doesn't sound cute, you know? There's no magic to it or anything like that, you know? So they always say, work hard, get up early, drink a lot of water. Yeah, it's all great. And then bust your ass day in, day out, harder than everybody else. Then you can talk about success. And success is a lot of different things. When I talk about success, you can guarantee, knowing me, I'm not talking about financial success. I don't have that. Okay, we get by. Nos apañamos. That's what everybody's doing, I think. But I'm talking about success, being able to hold the book in your hand saying, this was an idea that materialized. And I think, man, that's a powerful thing. And that's why my motto, mi lema, one of my mottos is ABC. Easy as 1, 2, 3. ABC, baby, you and me, girl. ABC. What does it stand for? Oh, I thought you'd never ask. Always be creating. Siempre estás creando cosas. Okay? I always mix up creyendo and creando. That's why you saw me second guess myself there. And to second guess es dudar de, no es adivinar de nuevo. Ahora no sé si lo que dije antes, right? So to second guess, it's another way of saying dudar. All right. Now, today we're going to take a look at a lot of idiomatic expressions from the book. We have a little competition in this book and also in the first book. It's not in the third one. So that just shows you they're different, each one. But we always love, one of the things Damian and I love to do when we're chatting, because remember, these books started as WhatsApp messages. And we're like, deal, this is interesting stuff. Like this, people, we could share these ideas and concepts. And all we do is play with words, what I tell you guys to do, to find, you're on the lookout. Estás a ojo pelado. You're looking for these milky words wherever you can find them. And then once you find them, you got them forever. So this way, as we call it, the Milky Way, la Via Láctea, the Milky Way seems to work. And I always tell people, if they say, well, who's the book for? Well, it's for people who love English. So English geeks like you guys, my show with no namers, and people who hate English, because I think it's a good introduction to show people English is not some big monster that we have to be afraid of, but it can be fun and it can be a game. So we're going to play a little game now. Now, the game in the book is we duke it out. To duke it out is pelearnos. Damian and I, we duke it out to see which culture has the better expression. So, for example, let me give you one off the top of my head. El tiempo es oro, or time is money. Same kind of idea, but which one really makes more sense? And we debated this. Te puedes imaginar nosotros, sí, pero el oro, pero cuidado, el otro baja en valor, el otro. We decided Spain wins that one. So 1 point for the Spanish language. Another one you win. Sujetavelas. It's so funny. We say the third wheel. Sí, es creativo. Or the fifth wheel, se puede decir también. But you guys, you take the cake. Os lleváis la palma. There's another one. So I always tell you this. I love that you know expressions. But if you don't know how to conjugate was and were, if you make mistakes with irregular verbs, you're putting the cart before the horse. Te estás adelantando. You're getting ahead of yourself. So remember, these expressions are nothing if you don't have that foundation. Esos cimientos que necesitamos. And then we build on that. Ampliamos sobre eso. But you need to have that foundation, okay? And remember, folks, speaking of, you got Tosh Pasqua, who was on the podcast last Friday, talking about parenting in English. And I've gotten a lot of really good feedback on that. So thank you. Thank you. All right, let's take a look at these expressions. We'll duke it out. But I think what we're going to do is just see if you know these common expressions in English. If you have This Book is the Milk Too, you can follow along. I'm not going to give you all of them, but let's see if you know some of the key ones over here. This one's very similar. Vivito y coleando. Okay. How do we say that in English? Okay. How's he doing? Is he okay? No, le ponemos en contexto como siempre. Oh, yeah. He's vivito y coleando. Aguantando, tirando, haciéndose fuerza. Más fuerte, ¿no? He's alive and kicking. Yeah, dando patadas. Here we decided it was 1 point for USA. Why? ¿Tú tienes cola? Okay, chicas. I think they mean cola como like an animal. So ours is more complete. Vale para todos, ¿no? Un animal puede dar una patada, ¿no? Dando patadas. So alive and kicking. And again, what we're doing is we're having a funny little debate here. But at the same time, what are we doing? We are also associating them with the Spanish equivalent. All right, the next one. Se cree el ladrón que todos son de su condición. I love that one rhymes in Spanish. It's wonderful. So it's when somebody says, "Oh, Alberto, you're a cheater. Tú juegas con trampa, eh?" And you say, "Pues, lo has visto tú porque conoces ese comportamiento bastante bien. Ahí me has visto porque tú eres igual." We say, you know what? It takes one to know one. Yeah, it's good. Requiere uno para reconocer a otro. ¿Quién gana ahí? Spain. Yeah. Mucho más creativo. Se cree el ladrón y rima y todo. You get an extra point for rhyming and everything. In English, it's very literal. Es como el mundo es un pañuelo. Ahí ganáis. Y somos los mocos. Remate final. We just say, it's a small world. It's boring. But hey, if it helps you remember it, there's that Disney song. It's a small world after all. Okay, next one. Se va a armar la gorda. Literally translated, the fat woman is arming herself. Or should we say obese? Not allowed to use the word fat now. Even though I'm fat. So I can't say that I'm fat? Really? I can definitely have an opinion on myself, right? So, the fat woman is arming herself. Se está armando la gorda. We say all hell is going to break loose. Luz con dos oes. Man, all hell is going to break loose. And all hell, todo el infierno, se va a escapar. Piénsalo, se va a armar. Who wins there? I think it's clear. The fat woman's going to arm herself, or hell is going to open its gates and everybody's coming out for a big party. Okay, another one then for USA. The next one. Every dog has its day. I just gave it to you in English. Do you recognize it? We'll do this one backwards, al revés. Every dog, si yo te digo, every dog has its day. It's literalmente cada perro tiene su día. You say, a cada cerdo le llega su San Martín, which is not an easy one to say. But it's cool because it's based on tradition, so that gets a point. See, we have our own point system. If it's creative, if it makes sense, if it's linked to some traditional thing. Obviously, if it's funny, there's always points for funny. Okay, the next one. You say to wake up with your left foot. We don't. We don't say to wake up with your left foot. We say to wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Okay? To wake up on the wrong side of the bed. What do you say? I think they're both pretty absurd, aren't they? You woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Well, then get up on the other side. And on your left foot, what's wrong with your left foot? Do we have something against left-handed people now? So, I mean, again, these are little funny, not real debates, but ways of remembering them. All right, and we'll give you one more over here. You say, ser un aguafiestas. Ser un aguafiestas. A water parties or a party waterer? I think it's funny. It does make sense if you think of to rain on someone's parade. No, a lluvia en su desfile. No, agua fiestas. Same idea. So again, it's about association. You just got to imagine it in your head, and you can associate it to the Spanish one if they're pretty similar. If they're not, you got to just come up with it. But again, by associating, bueno, ellos lo ven así, nosotros lo ven así. And then you're learning not just the expression, you're learning our perspective, how we see the world. Okay, when we say to be a wet blanket, me encanta esta. Oh man, you are a wet blanket. A wet blanket. Even better, a party pooper. Un caga fiestas, a party pooper. All right, amigos. Well, there you go. Those are some good ones. I only gave you the tip of the iceberg. I see so many people are participating, but we're going to go a little bit out of order today. Why? I don't know. I just felt like I wanted to switch it up just to make sure you guys are paying attention. We're going to look at our homophones.
Homophones, homophones on the show with no name. It's homophones time, cause homophones rhyme. They sound the same on the show with no name. The show with no name. Homophones on the show with no name. Cause homophones time, it's homophones rhyme. They sound the same on the show with no name. The show with no name. The show with no name. Homophones.
That's right, amigos. It's homophones only on the show with no name. And as always, you're going to get two words. And I want to know, A, what the words are, and B, if they sound exactly the same or not. Is everybody ready? All right. The first word is a military rank. Okay? You say coronel. Coronel, a military rank. You'll have to forgive me because I don't know very much about the ranks, but this is a military rank nonetheless. No obstante. Coronel. Okay, you familiar with the word? The other day when we looked at, last week we looked at the dictator. We said a couple different, we said general. So let's see if you know this one. Coronel, a rank in the military. And the second word is the meat part of a nut. Fruto, nuez, avellana, almendra. We also use it to talk about popcorn. So those little semillas or frutos, what do you call them? Granos of popcorn. In English, ¿cómo se llaman? Right? Have you heard the word before? And a lot of times we use it to refer to meollo o núcleo, like the essence. So hay una esencia, essence. It's another way to say a synonym for essence, right? All right. Let's see. Also, it's a word they use in IT and in informatica. I didn't know that. See, you learn something new every day. As I always say, you guys aren't the only ones learning here with us on the show with no name. So those are your two words. The first one is a military rank, coronel, and the second one is grano, semilla, fruto, nuez. Wow, you really do have a lot of different ways to say this. Folks, you know what the music means. We've got to take a quick commercial break, but we'll be right back with tons more Show with No Name. So, if I were you guys, I wouldn't even think of going anywhere. Stick around. Woo! Hey, amigos, welcome back. Welcome back to the Show with No Name, exclusively on Vaughn Radio. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back. Just a quick reminder, we've also got a trivia night coming up. Mark your calendars for June 7th, el 7 de junio. June 7th, Andy Vaughn, Rob Grams, and the one and only, el mismísimo, Nacho Carvajal, or just Nacho. He's like Prince or Madonna. He doesn't need any additions. He doesn't need any titles or even a last name. The one and only Nacho will be putting you to the test with your knowledge of music, and that's a free event. It's taking place on June 7th. At 8:30 p.m. at Roll Madrid. And you can listen to Rob and Andy on the lunchtime show every day right after Ximena's show. Test your English. What a great morning. And then, as if that weren't enough, you've got Tosh Pasqua with Back to Basics. Seriously. It's a great morning. And I didn't even get into our afternoon and evening programming. All right, amigos, welcome back to part 2 of today's show. I can't believe how fast the first part of the show just flew by. But folks, we've got a lot to do, so let's kick off with our Say What? Say what? What? That's right, amigos. That's right. It's your Say What soundbite on the Show with No Name. This one's gonna be tough. I don't think it'll be tough to understand, but it's a little bit long. But I always take that into consideration. If it's really tough to understand, I try to keep it shorter. And if it's easy, well, then I can make it a little bit longer. I always use my judgment. You say juicio? My judgment. Que es raro porque la muela del juicio is not my judgment teeth. It's my wisdom teeth. De sabiduría. See? Again, it's just a matter of associating. Nosotros decimos tal, ellos dicen tal. I've spent 45 years learning your language, associating things, and it seems to be working. Many of you have complimented me on my Spanish, and I still have a long way to go. Hombre, me queda mucho camino. I've got a long way to go, but I don't ever want to reach my destination. Why? Because I'm enjoying the ride, folks. I'm enjoying every minute of this journey that we're on together. Because, okay, you're learning English, I'm learning Spanish, but we're on a journey, baby. We are on a journey here. We are on a mission. We are on a quest. And in this part of the quest, what you have to do is listen very, very carefully right now and write down what you hear. I'm going to play this for you 2 times now, and then we'll go back and we're going to check our homophones. Don't worry, I didn't forget. I see many people are participating. That's great news. I'm so happy to have you all here, and I see a lot of right answers, so great job. A lot of right answers in my field of vision. All right, everybody ready? Here's your Say What soundbite for the first time. And I think every person in the world, okay, who speaks English, every English speaker will recognize this voice. And I think even more than just English speakers, everybody.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day.
All right, there you go, amigos. Any Muse fans in the house? Well, I'm just saying, if you're a Muse fan and you know the song Defector, then you might recognize part of this because it's in a song too. So it's a pretty well-known piece of history, I guess, and a very well-known a very well-known person. I got tongue-tied. A very well-known person for Muse to, make a song around this person. And this must have been a very important moment or speech or whatever it is for them to make a song about this speech when this person made hundreds of amazing speeches. All right, I'm giving you way too much information now. More information than you'll need. All right, let me give you the Say What soundbite for the second time. Everybody ready? Here we go.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day.
All right, there you go, my amigos. There's your Say What soundbite for the second time. As I said, sounds like somebody who is stately. Stately. A statesman is alguien del Estado, un político. So sounds like somebody stately. Sounds like somebody who's sure of themselves. And I hear a lot of conviction. And the person doesn't sound old. All right, Alberto, stop giving it away. Deja de soplarlo. Either way, we've got to go over to our homophones. Now, the first word, as many of you have put, is the word colonel. Escrito colon. Okay, now this is interesting too. Colon es dos puntos. Colon es parte de tu cuerpo, where you get poopies, right? They're not pronounced the same. It's like wind and wind, tear and tear, right? Those kind of words. Project and project. You need to project your voice if you want to participate on this project. Pero se pronuncia project? Project manager? Oh my God. If I had a nickel, si tuviera 5 céntimos, for every time I've heard that mispronounced, I would be filthy rich. I'd be rolling in it. Estaría forradísimo. So this is one of those weird words in English because even though it has an L in it, we pronounce it with an R. So we say colonel. Where's the colonel? The first colonel that comes to mind is Colonel Sanders. Do you guys know Colonel Sanders? Perhaps one of the most famous figures in the United States in our history. No, he wasn't a politician. Sounds like it, right? Colonel Sanders. Was he a colonel in the military? Yeah, possibly. I don't know if it was just a nickname or he really earned that title. But why is this colonel famous? Colonel Sanders, his secret recipe, su receta secreta? I'm talking about KFC, baby. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Yeah, they're the guy. I don't know if they still use him, but in the United States, when you say Colonel Sanders, you're talking about KFC, baby. Kentucky Fried. So that's interesting. Look at that word, colonel, and we say colonel, colonel. Another one, lieutenant, lieutenant. It's a tough one. Lieu es teniente, teniente. Se pronuncia lieutenant, right? Pero se escribe lieutenant. It's crazy. It's a pretty crazy spelling there. So the first word we just said, say it with me, colonel. Thank you, colonel. Dismissed, colonel. I'm thinking of Top Gun over here. And the second word, Kernel. So when you get to the bottom of the popcorn, you'll have kernels. ¿Qué? ¿Coroneles? Well, no, they're pronounced exactly the same. Excellent job. So a really easy way to remember it. Colonel Sanders finished his popcorn, and the only thing left was kernels. And there's a kernel of truth in that. Un meollo, un núcleo, una semilla, una esencia. There's a kernel of truth in it. So, kernel. The good news, the second word, if you look at it, it's easy enough, right? You look at that word, you say, kernel, easy, easy peasy. But never in a million years would anybody who didn't know English know that that first word is pronounced exactly the same. But I didn't stump you guys, so excellent job to all of you. And I think I'm going to reward you with some of my amazing jokes. I know you love my jokes and you look forward to them every day. So let's kick off with You're Joking.
Thank you. Okay, what did the guy say when he walked into the bar? Ouch. Ouch. You get it? Ouch. He walked into the bar.
You're joking. That's right, amigos. You're joking only on the show with no name. Let's take a look at today's joke, and we'll see if you guys can figure it out or not. All right, our joke over here, excellent one, by the way. The first one, I think it's hysterical. You may not think it is, but guess what? As long as you learn English, that's the only thing that matters to me. All right, are you guys ready? And again, if you get the jokes, feel free to explain them. And I decided that we can just stick with this military. We're going in this military direction today. Why not? What do you call a military officer who goes to the bathroom a lot? What do you call a military officer that goes to the bathroom a lot? Easy. A lieutenant. No? A lieutenant? No? We just looked at the word, so you know it's teniente. One of the meanings is teniente. Another one, you know who I think of? So I think of Colonel Sanders, and then I think of Lieutenant Dan. Think of Lieutenant Dan. Does it ring a bell? Lieutenant Dan. Lieutenant Dan. That's Forrest Gump. No? His partner, his lieutenant when he was in Vietnam. Lieutenant Dan. Lieutenant Dan. Gary Sinise. What a great actor he is. Man, he was excellent. In that movie and many other movies he's been in. He's a classically trained theater actor. Gary Sinise. All right. So did you get it? Lieutenant? All right. Well, I guess we'd have to look at the fact that loo in British English means bathroom. A lieutenant, Lou, the Lou. Hey, if you go to England, you need to know that one. Pardon me, where's the queue for the loo? ¿Dónde está la cola para el baño? Where's the queue for the loo? Now, in American English, you'd say, where's the line for the John? It's funny how they're both names. Ahora, no se escribe Lou como Lewis. Es L-O-O. But if you say it, lieutenant, aunque se escribe le, it's pronounced lieutenant. So what do you call a military officer who goes to the bathroom a lot? Lieutenant. Okay. All right. I got another one for you. I've got another one. What do you call someone who joined the military out of spite? And do you know this one? Spite? Spite is rencor. When you do something for a bad reason, to get back at somebody, to get revenge, it's the wrong reason to do something. I always say, do things that make you happy, not out of spite. So if you're spiteful, como siempre, jugando con las palabras, then you do things out of spite. Spiteful is mala persona, malintencionada. So you would rather screw somebody over than be concerned with your own happiness. So definitely not, it's one of those negative adjectives. Don't be spiteful. So what do you call someone who joined the military out of spite? Easy. I'm sorry. I can't even. It's funny. A petty officer. Oh. Did anybody get it? A petty officer. What do you call someone who joined the military out of spite? A petty officer? No? Well, okay. Well, a petty officer is suboficial in Spanish. We would say sub if we pronounce the word sub, like substandard, como as a prefix, como prefijo, right? We wouldn't pronounce it sub. So suboficial. So yeah, it's like a subordinate, right? Viene de subordinate, no me imagino. A non-commissioned officer. Pues no lo sabía ahí. A non-commissioned. ¿Ves? Aquí me pierdo un poco. But I guess what we need to know also is that the word petty also means unimportant. You know, something that's not really serious. You know, mínimo, baladí, insignificante. A good way to remember this is Tom Petty. You don't know how it feels to be me. You don't know how it feels. So you get it now? What do you call someone who joined the military out of spite? A petty officer? Suboficial o un oficial que hace cosas triviales. It's petty, man. Come on. Doing things out of spite, por ejemplo, is petty. P-E-T-T-Y. Los americanos, ya sabéis, lo pronunciamos más como una D. Petty. Don't be petty. All right, last one. I've got another one for you. Why didn't the troops tell anyone about their rank in the military? Okay, so why didn't the troops tell anyone about their rank, I think you say rango, in the military? Easy. It was private. No, it was private. No, nobody gets it? Private, I know you know that word. Private classes particulares, privadas, entre dos personas. But also, if something's private, it's something you don't share with people. De hecho, hablamos de nuestros partes and we say private parts. They're just for your eyes only, or your loved one, you know what I mean. Private. Okay, I know you know that word. Many of you are familiar with that word, especially given your level. But what about if I told you that private is also another military rank? Soldado raso, private. And if you know the title of Private Ryan. You know that famous movie, the famous war movie, Saving Private Ryan. Well, they weren't saying because vivía una vida privada. They were saying it because he was soldado raso. So what do you think, folks? Good jokes? All right. I got more stuff for you. Right now, it's time for Name That Movie. Name That Movie. That's right, amigos. That's right. It's Name That Movie only on the Show with No Name. And let's see what movie we've got for you today on the Show with No Name. As I said, we're going a little bit out of order today, but that's all good. This way we can just switch it up a little, and I can keep you guys guessing. So let's take a look at today's Name That Movie and see if you guys can figure it out. Let's look at our synopsis first. When a shy groom... Shy, tímido. Let me get, I'll say it once, and then as I always do, I'll break it down. When a shy groom practices his wedding vows in the inadvertent presence, of a deceased young woman, she rises from the grave, assuming he has married her. Sound familiar, doesn't it? Sounds quite familiar. So when a shy groom, the word shy, tímido. When a shy groom, and what is groom? A groom is the person who's getting married, the guy, el tipo. And to groom is also aciclarse, limpiarse, arreglarse. Good way to remember it? The groom has to groom himself or get groomed before the wedding, right? Tiene que arreglarse. You know, trim your beard, look good, right? It's a good way to remember it. So when a shy groom practices his wedding vows, los votos, you say, in the inadvertent presence, inadvertent, no sé cómo se dice en esto en español, inadvertent, give me a second here, I got to look this one up, involuntario, okay, inadvertent presence, presencia, que suena igual que regalos, by the way. My presence every day is your presence. See, my presence, every day I get a lot of presents. Your presence, vuestra presencia. All right? In the inadvertent presence of a deceased young woman. Deceased. Not diseased. Ojo. Diseased es que tiene infección, está infectada con enfermedad. Diseased. I said deceased, que es difunta. Excuse me, I just sneezed. Difunta, deceased. So let's review them. Sorry, I just lowered the microphone so you didn't have to hear me sneeze in your ear. So diseased, repítelos conmigo, por favor. The first one, diseased. The second one, eso es enfermedad. And the second one, deceased. Of a deceased young woman, muerta. She rises from the grave, levanta desde la tumba, assuming he has married her. And ladies and gentlemen, I see a few people have figured it out. Nice job. This is Corpse Bride. Corpse Bride, directed by Tim Burton. I'm kidding. It's not Tim Burton, it's Tim Burton. Si te ha sonado normal, pues mal. The movie came out in the year 2005, and it's just a typical Tim Burton film if I've ever seen one. And Nell says, and she's singing, these lines are, some of them are sung. I'm going to say them just because I don't want it to rain, okay? Nell says, it's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. And then William answers, it's a rather nice. Rather lo usamos bastante. Preferiría. I'd rather do this. I would. Contraído. I'd rather do this. But it's rather nice. Es bastante. So it's a very useful word. I'd rather talk about this than that. But this is a rather interesting lesson. Okay, there you got it in context. Then Nell singing says, a day for a glorious wedding, un día para una boda gloriosa. And William says, a rehearsal, my dear, to be perfectly clear. And if you notice, everything rhymes. A rehearsal, you're saying ensayo. Well, in the United States, I don't know if I imagine. Yeah, we did it in Spain, but we didn't have a dinner. In the United States, usually the wedding party, the people who are participating in your wedding, your best man, all of these people, what they will do is they'll get together the night or maybe a day or two before the wedding, and you go to the church or wherever you're going to be, and you have a rehearsal. You don't have to go through every little thing, but it's after she speaks, you're going to speak. You come, hand me this, just so everybody knows their role. And what you do, it's kind of crazy because you're rehearsing what you're going to do in the wedding, but then you go out for dinner and drinks. So a lot of times people get to their weddings hungover thanks to the rehearsal dinner. And I've got to be honest, I've been to many weddings, and the rehearsal dinner is the informal family all together. And that's a pretty cool thing. So then he says, a rehearsal for a glorious wedding. And William says, assuming nothing happens that we don't really know, que realmente no sabemos. And Nell says that nothing expected interferes with the show. Not expected, perdona, unexpected, inesperado. And that's why every last little thing, cada cosita, every last little thing, every single tiny microscopic little thing must go according to plan, según el plan. Folks, we've got to go. I can't believe it. We've got to go to a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with the second half of today's show. So stick around. Hey, amigos, welcome back. Welcome back to the show with no name. And by the way, if you want to learn all that wedding vocabulary and even learn a little bit about my wedding and how American weddings go, there's an FYI episode on weddings. If you haven't heard it, give it a listen. Every week, you get a new topic that we're going to take a look at. And if you want, you can send me your suggestions, amigos. I'd love to hear from you. All right, welcome back to the third part of today's show. Time is just zipping by or whizzing by. Hey, I always tell you guys, you got to mix it up. Whiz. It's an airline, Wizz Air. Why? Because they whiz by. I don't know. I've only flown with Wizz once. And they lost. I don't think it was lost. I think it was stolen. I learned my lesson. Never leave a phone in a checked bag. No dejes un móvil en una maleta que vas a facturar. Lesson learned. Wasn't a good idea. Somebody took my iPhone. I wasn't too happy about that, to be honest. But c'est la vie. Lesson learned. And speaking of lessons, we got a lot of other lessons still to come here on the show. Tons of challenges as well. And right after the show, you've got Ximena Holiday and Test Your English. But are you ready for our next challenge? It's called Double Trouble.
Double trouble, baby. Yeah, you know what time it is. Give it up. Double trouble. I said double trouble. Double trouble. I said double trouble.
That's right, amigos. It is our Double Trouble section here on the show with no name. And I got to say something. You guys are doing a wonderful job. Those of you who are with us live, and also those of you who are tuning in a little bit later on via podcast. There's no wrong way to listen to the show with no name. You can watch it on YouTube. You can listen to it, whatever's easier for you. But I urge you to grab a pen and grab a notebook. It'll cost you $1 or $2, un pavo o dos. Well, with inflation, maybe 4. Oh, great. Let's not even mention that. And take notes. Take notes. I know. I mean, just look at the first part of the show. How many idiomatic expressions did we look at in the first part of the show? I mean, it was insane. Una locura. All right, let's take a look at today's Double Trouble, amigos. Double trouble. And this one's going to be easy. I think it's going to be pretty easy. So I want everybody to participate, or at least take a stab at it, whether you're tuned in live or not. So whoever you are right now, I'm talking to you. Here we go. El hombre bebiendo cerveza de barril no está calificado. Tuve que buscar esa en español. No está calificado para reclutamiento o conscripción a la mili. All right? There you go, my amigos. You have to use the same word twice there, as you know. El hombre bebiendo cerveza de barril no está calificado. You can say qualified, pero yo cogí otra palabra. So qualified, pero qualified nos vale. A ver si sabes la otra palabra también. Si no, lo vamos a ver. El hombre bebiendo cerveza de barril no está calificado para reclutamiento / conscripción. All right? If you know it, you can translate it. Remember, you have to use the same word twice. That's how Double Trouble works. Also, I've got to give you the Say What soundbite. It's a little bit long, but let's listen to it again for the third time.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day.
All right, there you go, my amigos. I'm going to give it to you one more time because in the fourth part of the show, I'm going to play something special for you. I can't tell you what yet because I don't want to give it away. If I do, I'm going to give it away, and I don't like to do that. But we've got a little treat in the fourth part of today's show. Right now, I'm going to play the Say What soundbite for the fourth and final time, and we're going to take a look at the answer in just a little bit. Here we go.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day.
All right, I'll give you a little clue because it can be confusing. There's a homophone in there. I don't think this person is referring to gorillas like like that kind of gorillas. I think this person is referring to guerrillas. Hey, just so you know, they are homophones. And I think most of you will recognize, I mean, anybody from my parents' generation, even my grandparents' generation, and my generation, which is Generation X. And I don't know. I don't know about the new generation, Generation Z or whatever. I don't even know what they're called. Honestly, I'm too busy right now doing things to categorize people. I know these days it's popular to pop people into a category that makes sense to you, but please don't pigeonhole me. A mí no me metas en un encasillar, to pigeonhole. Somebody asked me, I told you, how should I refer to you? I'm like, Alberto, as it says over there. No, I mean your gender. And I said, Alberto, that's my gender, Alberto. Okay. I wish you wouldn't try and categorize me. It's none of your business what I do behind closed doors or what I have between my legs. I normally don't discuss that with people. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of other things to discuss besides you fuck men, women, both, animals. Pardon my French, but I feel like that's everything people want to talk about. And for me, hablando de la palabra private, it's a very personal, private question. I'm sure many of you know I'm married to a, sure, you can figure it out, but it's none of anybody's business. How does that make a difference if we're going to do business or not? What, if I say man, if I say female, now we're not going to do business? Or if I say male, we are, vice versa? What, that shouldn't change anything. It doesn't matter what I am. I'm a human. That's what I am. And I don't want to be categorized as anything else than that. You can call me man, you can call me woman. I don't give a shit. I really don't care. I'm a human. And you can put me in whatever category you'd like, but I refuse to be categorized, just like my students. And I'm talking about, you know, categorizing guys. Oh, these are good students. These are bad. No, you guys are the bomb, or as we say, you guys are the shit. And speaking of, a few of you have figured out our double trouble over here. Let's take a look. All right. El hombre bebiendo cerveza de barril. The man who's drinking. We looked at this a couple weeks ago. Do you remember? It was spelt differently in British English. Draft beer. Draft beer. Okay? Remember, ellos lo escriben Draucht y nosotros D-R-A-F-T. Okay? También es una corriente. Remember, we looked at it. We said, is there a draft in here? So good. También en Estados Unidos decimos tap beer, because the tap es el grifo, donde, de hecho, muy importante saber esta. I would like some tap water, agua de grifo. Oh, save yourself €6 on a bottle of water. If the water's good, like in Madrid or New York, no reason not to order tap water. But we wouldn't say draft water. O sea, que es draft beer, tap beer, but not draft water, tap water. Okay, bueno saberlo. So the man who's drinking draft beer, and that's going to be me. If it weren't, man, I'm telling you something. If it weren't Monday, I'd crack a beer. It was a crazy weekend, man. I gotta say, a lot of emotions. I didn't get to rest very much. I'm sure you can hear it. My voice is a little bit weary. We looked at this word recently too. Weary is another way to say tired. So the man who's drinking draft beer is not qualified, or I put eligible, for the draft. And the draft is mandatory recruitment, right? And I'll never forget this, guys. You know me, I'm a peace guy. I don't believe in war. I don't like war. I think it makes a lot of rich people richer. And it sends the poor kids to go fight those battles. That's my honest black and white opinion. Do I think they're necessary? I don't know. I'm not going to answer that. But I know right now, the way we define war is poor people going to fight, in my country, at least. I'm not speaking about Spain. I don't know the military here. But there it's, because you don't see like the really rich kids going to the military. Either they get out of it when there was a draft, cuando había conscripción, or they don't have to. They have options. A lot of people with less money, they will go and do military service because the United States military will help you pay for college. So some people, if they want to get an education, a higher education, it's their only option. Again, I'm not criticizing, quite the contrary. I'm standing up for, defendiendo these poor people. And I don't mean even poor money. I mean poor, pobres, you know, You're going to go fight in this nation so that my stock goes up. Para que suba mi acción. Hey, it's all related to today's Say What soundbite. So yes, the word we looked at twice is draft. And I could have made it a triple trouble easily, but I didn't. I behaved myself. And this was just a double trouble because, as we said, corriente. We said now reclutamiento, conscripción. We also said de barril. Oh, and borrador. It could have been a quadruple trouble. Whoa. All right. Well, folks, I think there's a lot to celebrate here today. So let's celebrate in today's famous birthday trivia. That's right, amigos. It's famous birthdays only on the show with no name. Let's see if you can figure out who's celebrating a birthday today. We've got our first birthday boy. He was born in 1949, an English singer, songwriter, and guitarist. This guy doesn't like to switch it up. Like today, we switched it up. Hicimos un cambiazo. This guy likes the status quo. Bueno, the expression or the group? Well, folks, I'm talking about the co-founder and lead singer and the only continuous member of Status Quo. Es una expresión, la vida igual, right? Las cosas no han cambiado, but also it is the name of this very famous band. And I'm sure you guys know, I remember this song was huge in Spain when I was a kid. De hecho, no lo oía en Estados Unidos, pero aquí, oh, you're in the army now. You're in the army now. I used to listen to that on repeat, but I remember it wasn't nearly as popular in the United States as it was in Europe. But it just reminds me of, my summer. At least I don't remember which summer it was. But let me tell you another thing. My friend Simon and all my friends from England, they don't say status quo. They say status. Mate, are you still doing the status quo? Status. We say status. All right. That's number one. Number two, this person is an American singer, songwriter, producer, and actor. He has composed over 100 feature film scores. Okay. Score? Score is marcar. Yeah, but also score is partitura. So he's a composer. You might recognize some of his works. He worked on Batman, Tim Burton's Batman. Also, Tim Burton's Edward Scissorhands, Big Fish, and the one we looked at today in our Name That Movie, Corpse Bride, among many others. He did Good Will Hunting, Men in Black, 50 Shades of Grey, The Simpsons, Desperate Housewives. This guy is a living legend. You've heard his music time and time again. And last, and definitely not least, this person was the 35th president of the United States of America. He was the 35th president until he was assassinated in 1963. He was assassinated by a lone gunman. Does anyone believe that? I'm just saying, I'm not trying to be conspiracy boy here, but does anybody believe that this guy, there was a magic bullet that bounced and went inside and outside of this guy a million times and just happened to, bounce through his brain too? I don't know. Sounds a little bit too crazy if you ask me. In fact, like many times when people talk about this event in history, este acontecimiento, they say, which story sounds more like a conspiracy? That one guy did it? Do the math. The good thing is the truth will always out, we say. Tarde o temprano la verdad saldrá. And this person, I firmly believe, and his nephew, who is now running for president of the United States, firmly believes that this guy was assassinated by a group of people, a very complex group of people. And they even did a poll, un sondeo, in the United States some time ago, and nobody believes the official story. So you just have to look at motive. Mobile, you say, motive. Who wanted this guy stopped? Well, he wanted to take power away from a lot of major institutions in the United States, powerful ones to this day. He wanted to end the Vietnam War, and these were not popular within the establishment. And we call the establishment the real power, okay? The ones who are really pulling the strings of the politicians, because I hope most of you know that politicians are minions, no? Al final, hacen, they do the bidding of their masters, and their masters are the ones with the money. So, as we always say when there's a crime, follow the money. Cuando hay un crimen, sigue el dinero. Again, I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just telling you that I don't believe the official story. It's a crock of shit, decimos en inglés. Una milonga, una mentira. Now, the crazy thing is, people say that he was assassinated partly for exposing these powers and saying, guys, there's this powerful force out there that's even bigger than the president, even bigger than the Congress and all of the different institutions in the government. And, well, sadly, this guy's life was taken in 1963. It was a day that I think everybody will remember, anybody who was alive at that time. All right, let's take a look then. I think everybody knows who he is. This is probably, I think, one of the greatest charismatic figures out there ever. And I wasn't even alive, but just watching his speeches, I feel like he was a visionary, but he had to be stopped. He was exposing the people who were really running the show. All right, our famous birthdays are Francis Rossi, Danny Elfman, and last but not least, JFK. And that'll bring us to our Say What soundbite. This is JFK. You can hear this in the Muse song Defector. But if you want to hear the whole speech, just Google JFK addressing the American Newspaper Publishers Association, dirigiéndose a, on April 27th, 1961. Okay? And he says, and some people say this was the speech that they said, we got to get rid of this guy. He's exposing what we're doing. Again, form your own opinion. Don't follow me. I have my own opinions, and I've looked at it very thoroughly, and I don't believe anything of what anybody tells me, especially the government. So he goes, for we are opposed, estamos opuestos around the world by a monolithic, okay, a monolithic is monolítico, one big creature, and a ruthless, despiadado conspiracy that relies, depende de, primarily on covert means. Covert. He pronounces it a little bit in like a covert, he says. It's, I guess it's that New England accent. We say covert, where I come from, covert operations, escondidos. On covert means for expanding its sphere of influence. On infiltration instead of invasion. On subversion instead of elections. On intimidation instead of free choice. On guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. So he was talking about this secret, well, not too secret. A lot of people know that there's a military industrial complex. What does that mean? Those are the 10, 20, 30 companies that make a lot of money. As long as we're at war, siempre que estamos en guerra. So let's listen to this visionary whose birthday it would have been today, JFK. This is just part of the speech, but you can listen to the whole thing. Just search for Newspaper Publishers Association, April 27th, 1961. Here he is, the late, great JFK.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day.
All right, there we go. The eloquent and amazing JFK. If you haven't noticed, I love JFK. Folks, it's time for Name That Lyric.
Hi, hello, Alberto. I think the song is. No? Sorry, bye.
Name that lyric, name that lyric, name that lyric, name that lyric only on the show with no name, the show with no name, the show with no name. Name that lyric only on the show with no name, the show with no name, the show with no name. It's name that lyric only on the show with no name.
That's right, amigos. It's Name That Lyric only on the show with no name. I can't believe we're reaching the end of the third part of today's show. And as I said, I have a special surprise for you today. Today on JFK's birthday, I'm going to play the JFK episode of FYI. It's a pretty recent episode. I think you'll find it interesting. It's chock full of vocabulary. And what better day than on his birthday to remember him? So I'm going to play that for you in the fourth part of today's show. But first, it's Name That Lyric. And great job, guys. Great job. Awesome. Keep up the great work. Let's see if you know this song. I think everybody does. Vas a unas vacaciones en una tierra desconocida, ¿no? Al extranjero. A vacation in a foreign land. No, foreign. It's in, like that. I know you know it. In the Army Now. Look, Google it. Google the lyrics. In the Army Now by Status Quo. Unless you're British, then it's Status Quo. Sorry. A vacation in a foreign land. Uncle Sam does the best he can. We're in the Army now. Whoa, whoa, you're in the Army now. Now you remember what the draft man said. The draft man? Yeah, you guys know the word draft. We looked at 4 meanings of the word draft. You better know the word draft. So he says, now you remember what the draft man said. Nothing to do all day but stay in bed. You're in the Army now. Whoa, whoa, you're in the Army now. I know you all know it. It's a very catchy song. But did you ever know that word draft in there? Well, now you know. It's not wachu. He's actually saying a word, and it has multiple meanings. All right, let's go to this commercial break, singing the song together, and then we'll come back and learn all about the fascinating statesman JFK. All right, sing it with me, guys. I know you all know the song, at least the chorus. Come on, sing it. Woo! I think it's anti-war también. No, es antiguerra, si no me equivoco. A vacation in a foreign land. And Uncle Sam does the best he can. You're in the Army now.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Were the words a wise man once said. His words will echo eternally in the annals of history. However, this hometown hero had a not so happy, quite honestly, harrowing ending. Join me as we journey into the life of the legendary leader JFK on this week's episode of FYI. Welcome to For Your Info.
En inglés.
You got it. Hello, 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 my amigos, and welcome to this, another exciting episode of FYI, where we tackle a different topic every week. Abordamos un tema diferente cada semana. So you guys should be pretty knowledgeable about a lot of different subjects. And I imagine you're improving your English to boot. So thank you to all of my FYIers for listening, for downloading, for spreading the word. And I just wanted to give you guys a quick reminder that you can get bonus audio every week. There's a whole extra episode just waiting to be discovered, and it's available exclusively for my patrons. Now, what are my patrons? My patrons are my students. It's my community of curious students that we have curated online. Yeah, you know me. You know I love my alliteration. So if you want to join the party /English class, go over to patreon.com/Alberto Alonso, and you can find out how to get bonus audio. You can get worksheets and vocab sheets to follow along with each episode, and weekly and monthly classes with yours truly, un servidor. So if you want to find out more, it's patreon.com/Alberto Alonso. We'd love for you to join our curious community. And I'd like to send a shout out to all my patrons, especially my super duper students, Mara, Javier, Roberto, David, Mila, Alex, Patricio, Edgar, Loles, and Jose Maria. And don't forget about my interstellar students, Isa, Paco, Diego, Carmen, and Diana. Keep up the great work. And again, if you guys are interested in finding out more, drop me a line. Dime algo. So let's tackle today's topic. We started out with a quote, una cita, a very famous quote, a soundbite, también se podría decir, ¿no? Un clip de audio. And it's John F. Kennedy saying, "Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country." And we're going to take a look at the accent, that Boston accent, a little bit later on in today's show. Then I went on to say, these were the words a wise man, un hombre sabio, a wise man once said. Dijo una vez. His words will echo eternally. And to echo, as you probably figured out, es hacer echo. So they will echo in the annals of history. And I'm sure you can figure out that word as well. Then I said, however. Esta hay que saberla, eh? However, sin embargo, however, this hometown hero, and hometown is de su pueblo, de pueblo, right? Hometown hero had a not so happy. And cuando ponemos not so delante de un adjetivo es no tan. So a not so happy, quite honestly, francamente, honestamente, a harrowing ending. And the word harrowing is a great word to know as well. This adjective means distressing, horroroso, desgarrador in Spanish. A harrowing ending. And we all know the ending, and we're going to talk about Kennedy's assassination. But there's so much to talk about before that, because this guy was a legendary leader. And we're going to take a look into his life. Are you ready? All right, well, let's start at the beginning. Where was he born? Remember, we don't say where he borned, nunca lleva ed. It's to be born, y solemos usarlo en pasado, ¿no? So when were you born? And a good way to practice dates is by practicing this question with dates. When was your mother born? When was your father born? Until you get the hang of it, hasta que le pillas el truquito. So, what's your question for me? When was JFK born? Well, John Fitzgerald Kennedy was born on May 29th, 1917. Remember, when we say the month by itself, we say in May. When we say the year, 1917, we say in 1917. But when we say the whole date, we say on May 29th, 1917. And he wasn't born in a hospital. Fijaos en la pronunciación. Nope. He was born in the master bedroom on the second floor. Otra preposición. We don't say in the second floor. En la segunda planta is on the second floor of 83 Beale Street. Now, esto te lo puse no porque vas a conocer dónde es, sino para ver que el número va delante en inglés. The number goes first in an address. So 83 Beale Street, and this is located in Brookline, Massachusetts. And this little guy, this sickly guy, which we're going to find out, era un tío que siempre estaba enfermo. I think the word you say is enfermizo. Well, he managed to go to the military, to graduate from Harvard University in 1940, and to become the 35th president of the United States. And whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, or you like Kennedy or not, this guy was revolutionary. He was likable, no, caía bien. Well, not to everybody. He did make quite a few enemies because they said he wasn't a yes man. And a yes man es alguien que siempre dice, sí, lo que tú digas, lo que tú digas. And usually, I imagine they want presidents to be yes men, right? To say yes to the people who really run the show. And Kennedy he wasn't playing ball. Una expresión que aprendimos en el capítulo de béisbol. No quería jugar ese juego. As I just said, he was a frail boy. He was weak, débil, right? Sickly, the word I used before. And since he was a young boy, he suffered from a wide range of health problems. Some of them were even life-threatening. They say that he received his last rites. Now, your last rites is when the priest comes and says, goodbye, and, I hope you go to heaven. Los ritos, I think you say. Well, he was read his last rites a total of 4 times. Imagine that. 4 times he was knocking on death's door. And the first time was in 1947. He became sick when he was traveling around England. And he was diagnosed with a disease called Addison's disease, which he suffered from his whole life. The second time he was read his last rites was in 1951. And this was because he suffered from an extremely high fever while he was in Japan. The third time was in 1954 when he slipped into a coma following some surgery he had on his back because he had chronic back problems. And the final time, of course, was on the day of his assassination, which is pretty crazy. That was in 1963. So this guy, the odds were against him. La probabilidad iba en su contra. And against all odds, he did amazing things. But imagine that, 4 times. Not that they tell you you're going to die, but 4 times that they actually call the priest and say, come say goodbye and, make sure we tie up loose ends over here. But I think we can learn a great lesson here from Kennedy. Adversity, that should be a motivator, not something that is a deterrent, que nos frena. And Kennedy was a go-getter as well. A go-getter is alguien que va a por lo que quiere. And, he even forged documents to get into the Navy. And I know what you're thinking. Forging documents? Well, that's not very becoming of a president. That's not presidential behavior. Well, remember, he was sick. He was an unhealthy child. So he wanted to go to the military because he knew he wanted a political career. And back then, if you wanted to be respected as a politician, you would get a lot more respect if you had gone to war and defended your country. But of course, the military didn't want him. They said, guy, come on, you're falling apart. And he couldn't pass the physical exams to get in. So he used his father's influence and his father's moolah. Moolah is another way of saying money. His father, Joseph P. Kennedy, who knew a lot of people. He had a lot of contacts, and some of them were dark characters. And we're going to talk a little bit about Joseph P. Kennedy in the bonus part of today's show. Because, well, maybe his dad's cronies, sus coleguillas, were part of the reason he owed so many favors, que debía tantos favores. But he owed his father for this one, because thanks to his father's influence and money, he was able to get a clean bill of health, como decimos, and it was falsified, it was forged, and off he went, a la mili. He's in the army now. Only he wasn't in the army. He was in the Navy. But you know what? Even though he had problems, he turned out to be a hero, a leader, regardless of these problems. And in 1943, he was made the commander of a patrol boat, and it came under attack. I guess it's normal. During a war, there are attacks. And it came under attack. This was near the Solomon Islands. And after the boat sank, to sink es hundirse en pasado, it sank, Kennedy and his crew swam. They swam about 7 kilometers or so to a nearby island, una isla cercana. And they were stranded there. And to be stranded es que no vas a ningún sitio porque no puedes. You are stranded there. Well, they were stranded there for, are you ready for this? 7 days until other troops came to their rescue. So he helped his men get to safety. And, well, he not only won awards for that, but he won the most, or I should say the most coveted, the most esteemed award you can win as a serviceman, I should say. Obviously, the Academy Award if you're an actor, but as a serviceman, he won the Purple Heart for his service during wartime. And JFK is the only president to have that honor. He received it after he was wounded in action, and wounded is lesionado. That was in 1943. So now he had the war hero part. Now he just needed to get into politics. But he was taking the necessary steps, and part of that was his father as well. His father was a perfectionist and overachiever, and he wanted his children to do the same. And family was such an important thing for Kennedy. They had their dynasty. Los británicos dicen dynasty. Los americanos decimos dynasty. And they called the Kennedys Camelot. Camelot. This referred to the Kennedy administration. This was between 1961 and 1963. And Camelot, they said like he was King Arthur. And his charisma and his family, because if you remember, I don't know if you know this, but some of his cabinet members were family members, his brother being one of them. And we're going to talk about Bobby Kennedy as well. But he had what seemed like the perfect family, the perfect crew. And he was a family man. He had 2 kids, but really, well, that's kind of a trick question. He had 4 kids. But there were 2 miscarriages. So Caroline Kennedy and John Kennedy Jr. were the 2 kids that survived. If you know that famous video and photo of a little boy saluting his father's coffin, su ataúd, that's John Kennedy Jr. Many of you know he died in a plane accident. And there are some people who say that it wasn't an accident. And we're going to look at all those conspiracy theories and all those juicy details in the bonus part of today's show. But, I mean, think about that. Adversity. He had the health adversity. He lost 2 of his children. Jackie, his wife, Jackie, gave birth, dar a luz is to give birth, to a stillborn daughter. Her name was going to be Arabella. But she never survived. And then in 1963, she gave birth to Patrick Beauvoir Kennedy, more than 5 weeks before her due date. And her due date is la fecha en que sale de cuentas. Well, that poor baby died 2 days later. So I think the Kennedys, it seems idyllic, Camelot, but I think they had their fair share of problems. And, well, I think one of the reasons they survived, well, not the two brothers, but the Kennedy name, is because they stick together. Se juntan, se mantienen juntos. And that was his brother, nobody like his brother, RFK. I was going to say BFK, but no. It's Robert Fitzgerald Kennedy, but everybody called him Bobby Kennedy. And his brother was his right-hand man. He was not only on his cabinet, he was not only by his side and campaigning with him and spreading the word, but he was also there for all those milestones. In fact, they said at his wedding, at John and Jackie's wedding, that he misbehaved. He was running around acting like a teenager. Well, hey, that's what brothers are supposed to do. But he seemed like such a supportive brother. And of course, he was assassinated too. And we're going to talk about all that a little bit later on. And he came from a huge family, humongous. He was the second child of 9. Oh my God, his poor mother and father. Well, I don't know if poor is the right word to describe them because they were filthy rich. As I said earlier, the reason Kennedy was able to get into the armed forces was because of his dad's moolah, his dad's influence. So they had tons of money. He didn't get into politics because of the money. And in fact, he proved that. His salary was $100,000. $100,000 es otra forma de decir 100,000. And you know what he did with his presidential salary? He donated it to charity. That's right. He donated it to charity. He didn't need money because he came from the prominent Kennedy family. And many of his uncles, aunts, siblings were also famous. Ted Kennedy, his uncle, was a famous senator. As I just said, JFK Jr., he was becoming very, very famous until he had an accident. Also, RFK Jr. So now, as you can see, their sons are taking over. Well, RFK because he's alive. JFK Jr., as I said, off the coast of Martha's Vineyard, his plane crashed into the ocean. But as I said, you can look into that. There's an official story, and then there's the story of we got to get these Kennedys out of the way. They have too much influence, too much charisma, and so they're still around. The Kennedy name is still around. You hear the word Kennedy and you think of power, you think of politics. And now, for example, his sister, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, she founded the Special Olympics. So Kennedy wasn't the only one. Kennedy, meaning Robert or John F. Kennedy, they weren't the only ones to go on to have successful careers. Oh, and by the way, John F. Kennedy, his nickname was Jack. A lot of people called him Jack Kennedy. So how did he rise to power? How did he get into politics? Because he went to the right school, obviously Harvard, a lot of presidents have come from there. He went to the military. He came from the right family that could pull some strings. So it wasn't until April 25th, 1946, and he entered the race for the 11th Congressional District. He held that seat from 1947 to 1953. I think seat, you say escaño. He was just 29 years old. His first foray, incursión, his first foray into politics. Then from 1953 to 1960, he was in the Senate. And this is something that, well, just moving up the ladder, we say in English. Subiendo esa escalera corporativa, ¿no? De poder. We say climbing the corporate ladder. And his slogan was, Kennedy will do more for Massachusetts. Of course, I'm always going to try and do it in his accent. Then in 1956, Kennedy almost gained the Democratic nomination for vice president. Almost, como decimos en inglés, close, but no cigar. La traducción, uy. Oh, and we're going to talk about Kennedy's love of cigars in the bonus part. So, as we can say, without going over his whole resume, sin pasar todo su currículum, he was working his way up the ranks. And in 1960, when he was running for president, he ran against Richard M. Nixon, who was already a well-known politician. There were a series of TV debates. And it's interesting because Nixon decided not to wear makeup, and Kennedy decided to wear makeup. This TV was a new medium at that time. So it's interesting because when you see the images, you see Richard Nixon sweating. He looks nervous. Obviously, the more you sweat, the more nervous you get. Y tenemos una expresión en inglés, never let them see you sweat. Que no te vean sudar, ¿no? El esfuerzo. Make it look easy, you know? And, well, Nixon, he was sweating like a pig because he decided, men don't wear makeup. So it's interesting because the people who watched TV that night and saw the debate on TV said that clearly JFK won the debate, but the people who listened to it on the radio said Nixon won. Well, we know who won that one because on January 20th, 1961, JFK was sworn in as the 35th president of the United States and probably one of the most memorable presidents ever. Unfortunately, just over 1,000 days in office, un poco más que 1,000 días, he was assassinated. On November 22nd, 1963, Kennedy was killed in front of the world. And that was the day that many people said the United States died a little bit inside. Even the world. I think the whole world mourned his death. And to mourn is estar de luto. Because he was young. He was also the first Catholic president. So after 1,000 days in office, his head was blown off. And we're going to talk about it in the bonus part because I think very few people believe that it was a lone gunman and one bullet. Well, that's the official story, but I don't think people are buying the official story anymore. And we're going to look at that in the bonus part. But something that blew my mind was that reportedly there were 4 other assassination attempts on JFK. That's right, 4 before they were finally successful. In 1960 in Palm Beach, also another one in Chicago, Tampa, and finally in Dallas, those people got their way. Se salieron con la suya. And we're going to take a look at JFK's famous last words. Just seconds before he was fatally shot, Nellie Connolly, the wife of the then governor, John Connolly, said, "You certainly can't say that the people of Dallas haven't given you a nice welcome, Mr. President, una buena bienvenida." And he had just gotten shot. And he says, "No, you certainly can't." And, well, the rest is history. What I'm going to do right now as we say goodbye is I'm going to play the newsreel. This is the famous news anchor Walter Cronkite, and he's breaking the news to the nation. And you can hear in his voice how affected he is, because I think this was a shot that rang out all throughout history, all over the world. Everyone heard that shot. So let's go back to that newsreel and hear it as if we were there on that day. And I sure hope you'll join us in the bonus part of today's FYI.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago. Vice President Lyndon Johnson has left the hospital in Dallas, but we do not know to where he has proceeded. Presumably, he will be taking the oath of office shortly and become the 36th President of the United States.